In the mid-2000s, dick became the leading drug of choice in the Western Cape, surpassing Menrex, weed and alcohol. You see, the dick epidemic was so bad, people were reduced to a fraction of who they used to be. And to this day, junkies are known to sell their family's belongings or anything they can get their hands on just so they could get their next fix. And the gang wars over drug territories are still going on, and all of this was fueled by the Chinese need for abalone, which is considered an aphrodisiac in China, something that boosts your sexual desire, similarly to what they use the rhino horn for. The abalone for drugs trade has grown into a multi-billion-dollar component of international organized crime, with South Africa's most notorious gangs controlling the poaching, and 9 Chinese triads control the international trade into Hong Kong, allegedly. Now, because these trades don't include cash in most cases, it makes it difficult to track the deals. So what's happening here is, illegally poached abalone is traded for a chemical that is used to make dick. Now, unregulated and easily acquired in China, the chemicals are expensive and difficult to obtain in South Africa. Now, the same thing with the abalone being easily accessed in South Africa and expensive in China, so the relationship is mutually beneficial, like between the gangs.
Mame.
Now, the growth of this poached abalone market helped fuel the rise in the trafficking of drugs, and it also provided the gangs access to guns, money and power. Now, various abalone-bearing areas have been divided up amongst the numbers gangs associates, but ultimately, it has been said that the 28 run the show. It has been reported in the past that Enilastar Solomon, the late gang leader, was allegedly a prominent figure in the Western Cape abalone trade in recent years, monopolizing the trade in the coast until his assassination in November 2020.
Abalone poaching is common in South Africa, especially in the coastal towns of the Western Cape. Now, this lucrative industry is allegedly controlled by gangs, and rumours are rife that they trade abalone with criminals from Asian countries in exchange for drugs. But there's a flip side. Local fishermen say they too have been forced to fish illegally due to the country's ailing economy.
You see, the problem became even worse under Zuma's administration, after the government moved political control of the fisheries sector out of the Environment and Tourism Ministry to an expanded agriculture ministry under the late Tina Jumat Peterson. Now, the Western Cape fisheries sector became part of the government's corrupt patronage network. So since the mid-2000s, the National Fisheries Authority has sold off confiscated abalone to fund anti-poaching operations. So over time, the process has become increasingly opaque, with little public oversight. Now, in just the last decade, law enforcement agencies has reported at least 4,000 abalone confiscations, averaging more than 1 a day. Now, the bulk of that abalone, totaling several hundred tons each year, has been processed and auctioned to private firms. Then in December 2016, the department awarded a contract to process and export 90 tons of abalone, priced at 60 million rands, to a South African company called Willjaro. Now, the department was to keep 70% of the money, paying Willjaro the rest. But Willjaro had no prior experience in the fishing industry and had been added to the department's supplier database just a day before the tender was advertised. And at the time, Willjaro also did not have any necessary permits for processing or transporting abalone, technically disqualifying them from the bid. Now, on January the 19th, 2017, Wiljaro's importing partner, a seafood trader based in Hong Kong, deposited almost 7.5 million rands into the department's bank account. The payment was for the first batch of the dried abalone. Now, a day later, a rival South African company, Shamode Trading, launched an agent application to review the tender process, and within 2 days, the Minister Zokwana had suspended that contract. Meanwhile, in court, Willjaro was fighting to have its contract reinstated. The company's Hong Kong buyers had paid for abalone that could no longer be legally exported, and Willjaro was in a difficult position. Now, 4 tons of product already processed was stuck at their factory premises in the Gansbaai Harbour. Then on September the same year, the factory was robbed with nearly 1.5 tons of dried abalone stolen. Now, sources connected to the abalone underworld said they suspected an inside job by Willjaro, using the pretense of a break-in to smuggle the abalone overseas. Now, Minister Zokwana suspended the Director General of the department in June 2017. Now, among other things, he was charged with failing to disclose a business relationship with Wiljaro's boss. So now it became obvious why Wiljaro got that contract so quick under shady circumstances.
Transit heist. It seems another form of heist is unfolding in the fishing industry. At least 16 million rand of confiscated abalone has been stolen from inside the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries in the past 3 years. Minister Senzeni Zokwana was forced to make this admission in a parliamentary reply this week.
South Africa suspended abalone fishing in its waters from Feb 2008 as marine authorities took drastic measures to protect the abalone from commercial extinction. Now, there has been suggestions that legalizing it may be the only way to save the species from going extinct and curb the violent crimes surrounding it.
We produce over 1 million baby abalone per month. Does that sound like an endangered species? Also, if you look at the poaching has been going on for more than 20 years. The levels of poaching has not gone down, it's actually gone up. So we're looking at more than 2,500 tons, which is 3 times what the legal TAC was in the past, still being harvested on a yearly basis. So it doesn't look like an endangered species. It doesn't look like a resource that is going to disappear tomorrow.
Access to marine resources, including abalone, as dictated by the fishing quotas, remains a deeply political issue, and those who poach and transport abalone often point to the limitations on the legal market as the reason they feel forced into the illegal trade. The Department of Forestry and Fisheries has refused to respond to questions by the Star newspaper regarding their 2021-2022 fishing rights allocations process, where billions of rands worth of fishing rights were awarded to some South African companies in a questionable way. Now, a whistleblower claims that several companies nominated a South African registered trawler, LKM, as their vessel they would use to catch their quota of fish should they be awarded the licenses. Now, A2 Fishing is a firm which the whistleblower revealed as one of the entities that had nominated LKM as their vessel of choice. The whistleblower also alleged that A2 was a front for a Spanish fishing giant, Ibaconza. You see, Ibaconza was said to have been controlling A2 through loan accounts it has with them. Now, according to the department, LKM belongs to neither A2 nor Ibaconza, but to another South African company, Legalization Fishing. However, the controversial LKM is listed on the Ibaconza's website as part of their fleet in South Africa. Now, the department has said Ibaconza has got no fishing license in South Africa. Now, on A2's website, LKM features prominently as well. Now, the whistleblower has since revealed that 3 other companies are using LKM as their vessel in the tender process, were awarded substantial fishing rights on the LKM vessel. Fishing rights allocations has caused problems from the onset. You see, many fishermen's lives came to a standstill when the department made these significant changes to its fishing rights process.
For the industry, it means we're going to sit with at least 180 current guys that fish, that have invested money in vessels and equipment. Their crew members that operate with them, they're going to be left without a job and without an income.
Kroom says of the 303 active permits in the sector, only 115 have been retained by the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. A further 100 new entrants have been added to the list. It's alleged some are known gangsters.
Fishermen are choosing to break the law as the government has made things difficult for them with the issuing of fishing permits.
You must do it, otherwise if you don't go to the sea and you don't catch anything, you don't have any money. The children must go to school, you must live as a human being, you must eat. There's lots of stuff you need.
The current fishing permits only allow small-scale fishermen to catch fish between November and March. They say they make around 6,000 rand from the 35 kilograms of fish they are permitted to take.
South African abalone is not protected in Hong Kong law. Once poached and abalone arrives in Hong Kong, it can be openly traded and sold in their markets alongside legally sourced ones.
Why do South African abalones have a reputation for being the most premium compared to those from other countries like Japan, US, Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, China, etc.? The abalones have a larger size and a more distinct flavor and fragrance owing to the pristine marine environment in the cold waters off the coasts of South Africa. South African abalones are considered the most exquisite selection due to their distinctive fresh and rich flavor and succulent texture. They also weigh more and have a darker color as compared to abalone from other regions.
Now, more than 2,000 tons of abalone is poached each year along the South African coastline, and the country's illicit abalone trade is worth an estimated $60 to $120 million per year. See, the problem is that South Africa is the only country where the wild harvesting of abalone is illegal. Our neighboring countries don't have the same restrictions, so what happens is gangs smuggle it out to countries like Namibia, Zambia, or even Congo, then ship it overseas to China.
People saw an opportunity and they went for it. And when it comes to gangs and drug lords, and unfortunately they are the guys that's buying the abalone. But if government can legalize it, and then they can control it. But now we've got no choice. We are a willing seller to a willing buyer.
You see, other abalone smugglers have said that today the Chinese don't only offer drugs for the abalone trade. Sometimes they'll even buy you a house, put it in your name just so that they can secure their supply of abalone at least for the next 5 years or so. Now, there are 5 distinct groups of players who could be identified working in the illegal trade. The poaching syndicates, known as divers that develop out of fishing communities in the Western Cape, and poaching syndicates and divers from the Eastern Cape working in the Overberg and Cape Town area, who are increasingly affiliated with the gangs, and also the Cape criminal gangs themselves, in particular those associated with the notorious 28 prison gangs. And you also find some Somalis and sometimes Congolese players who are South African based middlemen buying from the divers and arranging transport and laundering for the Chinese buyers. And then you also find the Chinese networks encompassing the buyers, dryers and exporters. Now, all poachers agree that the wheels of the trade are greased by widespread corruption. You see, gangs must pay a lot of money so that their shipments could reach their destinations, and this include the wildlife people that they must pay, the police and sometimes the politicians, just so that they could clear their way for their shipments to go where it needs to go.